Hello, and welcome to season 3 of The Desk of a Navy Wife, where you may or may not hear my kiddos in the background. My name is Raina Worthy, and on this podcast, we like to talk about challenges, triumphs, and experiences with being a military spouse. So kick back, relax, make a cup of coffee, or get that evening dinner ready, and watch or listen to me in the background. Quick disclaimer, I'm not a licensed mental health therapist, and the majority of my guests are not licensed professionals. If a guest is licensed, it will be clearly indicated and noted in the episode description. The content shared on this channel and in each episode is for educational and connection purposes only. It is not intended to diagnose, treat, or replace professional mental health services. Please consult a qualified professional for any personal mental health concerns. Neither I nor my guests are to be held responsible for any decisions made based on this content. Now, let's unpack. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Season 3, Episode 2 from the Desk of a Navy Wife. I'm your host, Raina Worthy. I'm super excited. This will be the second video going up on YouTube, and I am joined today by Ashley Brown as well as Sabrina Johannes, and they are both founders and creators, and they help military spouses on deployed love, which they'll have a second to talk about, as well as their own podcast, which is Rough Up Buttercup. So I'm going to turn the floor over to you all so that you can introduce yourself to our viewers.
So I'm Sabrina Johannes. I'm the founder of Deployed Love and the co-host over at Rough Up Buttercup. We have been doing our show for 5 years, which is super exciting. We're almost finishing the 5th year, which I feel like we just started this year, which is crazy. But we've been advocating for military spouses now for at least 8 years. I mean, at least in this position, in a military leadership position. I love everything about what we do.
I 100% agree with Sabrina. So I'm Ashley Brown. I am the executive director for Deployed Love and the co-host for Rough Up Buttercup. It's a big part of who we are. We're both military spouses. Sabrina's a contractor spouse now, but she still is part of the military spouse community because she still goes through the same things. But we definitely love advocating and supporting military families.
Congratulations on the 8 years of just advocacy and then all that you're doing in general. I appreciate everything you're doing for the community, and I will be sure to add all of that in the description as our viewers so they can check you out. Today's topic is going to be around mental health. So I am going to kick it off with some hard questions, some questions that some people may feel like it's not talked about a lot in our community. So I hope you're ready to answer those questions. So my first one for you, as whether you are a veteran spouse, which Sabrina, I know you are a contractor spouse and a veteran spouse now, or someone who grew up in the military, which Ashley, you have that military background as a military child. How has both of those experiences for you all shaped your view with mental health and military life?
Oof.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Hard-hitting questions today.
I feel like because we reflect off of what our spouses do, and we got in so young, that back in the day, the culture of mental health was non-existent.
Right.
And the reality was that we were told, they were told through their career not to talk about it. Don't bring it up at work, especially because my husband, he has a security clearance, and there's reasons that they could take away his security clearance, which would be our entire livelihood. And so things like that is very taboo in his career. And so I think that as a military spouse, I also just kind of reflect that in myself and didn't talk about when things were struggling, when deployments were really hard. I didn't post about it. I just muscled through because he did it. So why shouldn't I do the same thing to support him? And I definitely feel like I've put it on the back burner multiple times during his career.
Yeah, I feel like I've blocked out a lot of my experiences, especially as a youth. I couldn't really tell you how I felt. I can specifically tell you how I felt when my dad deployed after 9/11, because that was a pretty big time frame for us. I was much older too. So I was in middle school, high school during that time. I mean, he ended up deploying for 18 months for the first time, right after 9/11. When they first went over for Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Freedom and stuff. And so I do remember that being a struggle, but I also don't remember it affecting me to the point. And so, but at the same time, it didn't click to me that dad was gone. I mean, he was a Ranger Special Forces, so he was gone all the time, looking back at it. So as a youth, I definitely feel like I pushed things under the rug. I think my sister acted out a lot, but we were twins, so there was a lot of competition and stuff. So I do know that there was a lot of fighting between us for attention and things like that, between the sibling set. I really don't remember all the times that he was gone. As a spouse, 100%, it's always kind of pushed to the back burner. I think it's something you learn over time of what works for you. Like, I make sure nowadays that I'm taking a bubble bath at least a couple times a week just to decompress. Sabrina's been my saving grace for so many different things. Getting me into the organization has been a huge, huge part of helping me on my journey of mental health, supporting other military families, finding some self-worth. I've been working from home for the last 5 years. And so not having that connection in the community was really affecting my mental health. So I think finding things that give you purpose will help your mental state a lot, and that you enjoy. Yeah, sometimes that this job itself can be very stressful, especially when you're coordinating and relying on other people to do things. But at the end of the day, the mission and the what we get out of it is so worth it that sometimes it's worth that stress. So it takes everyday Monday tasks, makes them enjoyable. So finding that little spark of joy in the middle of your day can help that mental stability.
Yes, I agree. I feel like oftentimes we're on go, 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 especially whether you have littles or not. Like if you have just a household to take care of or other career or other endeavors, you're on go time and you forget to kind of just sit down to even do something as small as eating. Like eating lunch or breakfast, and it's like, did I eat today? And by then it's dinner time. So thank you for sharing both the mental and emotional challenges, touching on it from childhood, but also just as a military spouse in general, and then your safe haven, your with deployed love, and where it's brought you. How do you, and this is for both of you, how do you balance that emotional, the demands of military life, and also supporting your spouse or your family in their journey?
Yeah, it's been a journey to try to learn that, like,
Yeah.
because especially I feel like now it's been even more of a challenge because I have to help my children regulate a lot more because they're older. And so the older they get, they have more feelings about
Yeah.
things. There's a lot more like turmoil in their mind about things. And luckily we homeschool, so I think that we avoid some of the like bullying and things that happen at school.
Right.
But there's still things where they realize like, well, why isn't dad going to be home this day? Well, that's because he works nights, like he's not going to, we have to schedule things go around his schedule. And I feel like we are very open in our house
Mhm.
about feelings and emotions and like being all very neurodivergent family. So like being very open, like I don't want to be touched. I am very overstimulated. Everything feels big today and I
Yeah.
need you to just let me be alone. And teaching them those kind of terms in our household has taught them those kind of terms to use with us as too. So like a lot of times we don't respect our children's boundaries as
Yes.
much because they're our kids and you want to hug them and squeeze them, but sometimes they feel the same way where they're like, I am overstimulated. Please don't. Yeah, please don't. I don't want to be bothered today. And so we've used those terms in our house and it's been really good for us. We've learned a lot about neurodivergency over the last few years. It has helped everybody in our household have a better understanding of each other's emotions and what's going on.
Wow. I love that you do it and you're teaching your children that because like you said, that once they're young, you want to squeeze their cheeks or touch them. And it's just like, if they say no, so it gets into that asking for permission and, hey, is it okay if I give you a hug? Would you like a hug? And if they say no, not to get an attitude about it. It's like, okay,
Yeah, for sure.
you don't want a hug?
Well, and it comes down to communication, and that's something
Yeah.
like we preach over on Rocket Buttercup is communication is like number one key priority. You have to keep that communication open, whether it's the communication with your family unit, your spouse, your friends. It's really, really important, and it comes in role with your mental stability because
Yeah.
like if you're not communicating your wants and needs, they're not going to be met.
It's that
You're not
direct
going to-
communication, especially as they get older. It's like, I want you to understand where I'm coming from as an adult and as a human. And I want you to be able to communicate that to me as well, because we're not going to live together forever. And there's still
Right.
going to be times where I just need space. And as much as I would love for you to bring grandkids over, there's just a day, where I'm having a day. And I want to make sure that like they're aware of what those feelings are and that it's okay to express that kind of stuff because
Yes.
there are just days where I'm like, I have had too much on my mind. I don't want to talk about Minecraft with you.
Yeah.
I'm going to sound like a total bee if I don't tell you what's going on. And so instead of doing that, I'm going to walk away. I'm going to spend the rest of the afternoon in the bedroom and you
Yeah.
guys do whatever you want. That's fine. I'm like, but please don't come bother me. Like just being very
Yes.
open about that.
I feel so bad when like the kids are like trying to have a conversation with me. He was doing that today because they had the TV on watching a movie, and I was like, I am trying to work.
Yeah.
Can we just let me do this and I will have a conversation with you later? And then just realizing that, oh, their brains aren't working the same way as mine.
Right.
Like mine is like I can't have five different things going on in the background. I need to be able to kind of like have one thing on and focus, but I can't have like talking and things. So yeah, having that communication is
I'm so glad y'all spoke on that and the communicating what with your family, whether it's the household or extended family, but also I would even extend that to your friends, right? Because
yes,
sometimes you want to
absolutely.
vent to friends and tell them about everything. But if you don't have the mental capacity or you feel overloaded already, it's, hey, I don't have the space for that right now, but we can cut out a day when I'm mentally able to
And that's
prepare.
okay to say,
Yeah.
like, there are days where or, like, it's okay saying, "Hey," like, when you're having a communication with your friends, typically, like, with your friends, like, they're venting, you're all going
Yeah.
through similar things with different things, being like, "Hey, am I" like, I had a friend recently reach out to me, and she's like, "Am I overreacting?" I was like, "Yes."
Yeah.
You want the honest opinion? I was like, "Yes, but I can see your standpoint on this, but at the end of the day, you're just going way far left with it."
Yeah.
And once we had that conversation, she's like, "You're right. Like, I am overthinking this, and I think I'm just a little over emotional about this. Like, your thought process is going to be very different from the other person's thought process. So take that step back." I mean, she was able to acknowledge that she was like going far left, but at the end of the day, like, you're right. If you are not in a place to listen to someone vent, it's not going to be useful for your friend, and it's not going to be useful for you.
So for us as military spouses, and you mentioned it a little bit earlier that, hey, I had to be strong and I tucked it back or I put it in the back burner. I feel like so many of us emotionally are strong and silent. And that has had a huge impact in our military spouse community. So, what conversations do you all feel that we should have around mental health or you wish happens around mental health within our military spouse spaces?
So something I
And
don't talk about much, I was gonna say is burnout,
yeah,
especially in this realm of like where you're leadership and stuff like this. I am a perfectionist. I know that I am always trying to like do everything. And A has the executive director when I was burnt completely out. There was no functioning. I was crying every night. I just wanted everything to be the way it's supposed to be in my mind. And it just wasn't possible. And I was homeschooling, and at the time my kids were really young. So that was overwhelming and a lot of work.
Mm.
And there was just so much. And burnout, like, is, it's a catchphrase, right? Like, everybody calls it what it is.
Yeah, but it's
But it
real.
is something,
it,
if you
and
actually burn out, is something that it took me 3 years to recover from. Only now do I know how to set the right boundaries on my work life compared to my personal life. And even then, there's days where I'm like, wow, I'm still working and it's 10 o'clock at night. I really shouldn't be here. This is not healthy. And you have to just constantly remind yourself, nope, 3 tasks, put the top three. This is what we're doing for the day, period.
Yes.
Because I could sit and work deployed love stuff all day long, and I
Yeah.
could do everybody else's jobs that I feel like needs done, and I could do all these things, but then I'm going to get back to that state where I was literally in anxiety. I could feel it in my body. Every time we would have a meeting and I knew
Mhm.
there was gonna have to be some sort of confrontation, I was vibrating
yep.
through the entire thing. And it was
Really? Okay.
horrifying physically and mentally. And so when the opportunity came for us to go to Germany, I was like, yeah, I'm out. No, even not
Bye.
a second of hesitation. I need this so bad for my mental
Yes.
health. And people don't really realize like what the effects of burnout is. I mean, it is physical, and
Yeah.
that is something that isn't talked about, because if you put it on the back burner and you don't tell people about it, you're going to explode. You're just going to literally reach a boiling point where you can't go any further. And luckily I had Ashley here who could take over for me when I needed to leave, but I
Yeah.
did. And if you ask her, I stepped out. Like,
Yeah.
besides the podcast, I was gone for an
Yeah.
entire
And
year.
I definitely saw that that's something she needed. And
Yeah.
I was almost, I mean, there's been several times where I've gotten to that point where like I am just like done. But at the end of the day, I know that this is what really truly makes me happy. So I try to make those changes in other aspects of my life
Right.
where I can kind of pull them back. And I think that's just important, knowing what is important and not important to you and making those changes and saying no. No, you can say no. I wish everyone would just kind of like no is a complete sentence.
Yes.
No means no.
No
Like
explanation.
no, just it's just what it is.
Just
I'm trying to teach the kids like no is a complete sentence. You can
right.
say no. You can I mean that you can say no to family. I think a lot of our families have a lot of that like, built up anxiety and stuff because they feel like the stress and the pressure of going home for visits on Black
Right.
Week and holidays. The stressors are the anxiety of, are they going to be judged for being a stay-at-home mom? Are they going to be judged for being a working mom? Are they going to be judged for putting their career over, all these other things? And I feel like we see a lot of that,
Yeah.
especially on
Because
social
it's
media.
comparison, right? Like it's the
Right.
comparing ourselves to other people's lives.
Yeah, like recently there was a girl on TikTok who posted that, she was a brand new military spouse. Like,
Mhm.
husband was on recruiting duty. I'm sure if you're on TikTok and you're on military spouse TikTok, you saw this. And where she's like, it's not that hard. And she was slammed. And here's the thing, every journey is
Yeah.
different.
Yes.
Some people may think this lifestyle is easy. I've been a part of this lifestyle for 35 plus years, y'all.
Yeah.
Military brat straight into military spouse.
Yeah.
It there are times where I'm like, oh, piece of cake. But I've grown up this way. I
Right.
know this way. I know what the expectation is. Even though we preach that, you never know what's gonna happen, I know to expect the unexpected. But
Mhm.
that's something that I have had instilled into me since I was born. Now, that's not the case for a lot of our counterparts. A
Right.
lot of our counterparts have never left their state, and then now they're leaving to go to a different location. The culture shock is unbelievable. I feel like that's something that's not talked about, and that can be a huge effect on mental health, is that cultural shock of going to a different location. Even just moving back down to the South. I've lived in the South on and off my entire life.
Mhm.
Moving back down here, I'm like, like, it's so hot. I can't find the things that I normally buy. And I don't know why that's stressing me out, but it's stressing me out.
Right.
Why am I stressing out about I can't find my daughter's Chick-fil-A sauce? Just go to Chick-fil-A and buy it, Ashley. Like, you don't have to go to the grocery store. It's convenient to get it there. But at the end of the day, it's just one of those things where you just have to roll with the punches. Like, expect the unexpected. I try to explain that. But, embrace what comes to you.
It
I don't
is.
know. I think that, we go through so many changes every 3 years, however often you end up PCSing, that all these things add up to that stress level, that anxiety, that mental health. Moving itself is extremely stressful.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been here for almost 3 weeks now, and it's a huge mess.
Yeah.
And I'm stressing out. Like, I'm like, oh, it just needs to get done. But at the end of the day, I'm like, it will get done.
It will.
Like, it will get done. Like, get nice. I finally got my bookshelf up the other day, and it just made me, oh, no, it feels like home.
Yes.
Like those things will help you feel better. We started integrating into activities here. We're also homeschooling this year, so that is a huge transition for us as well. Like, that's not something we're doing, so we're trying to find our footing and trying different things that are working for us. And so, change is good. Change isn't always bad. I feel like a lot of spouses have a mindset of change is bad. And so they kind of just like, I'm not going to like this. I'm not going to like this installation because I got on the spouse page and hear all bad things. And they don't even go in with the mindset of, I'm going to give it a chance.
Right. Or
And that's
can I
what
change something? Can I change something when I get there?
Exactly. And so, and my biggest thing is like, don't go off of what you're reading, because you're going to hear more negative than you're going to hear positive.
Right.
Go and explore, go find the things that you like. But if you go on spouses pages, you'll see multiple comments right now going like, people are so mean here. And I'm like, I haven't had that experience.
Yeah.
I also put myself out there. I know that's really scary for a lot of spouses, is to go out and meet other spouses.
Yes. I think another thing with, just because you spoke on the culture and every time you move, it's almost like that culture shock all over again. But the military in general, if you haven't been raised in it, that's a culture in itself
That is.
that you have to learn. It's going to take time, and there's things you're not going to know everything. You're going to find
I
out
still don't
things.
know anything. And like I said, I have been
Exactly.
in community for over 30 years. There's still times where I'm like, what does that mean again?
Yes. So I'm going to ask both of you, how has podcasts become a sense of healing for both of you, or a grounding space in managing your own mental wellness?
I love our podcast. I think this was one of those things, like where me and Sabrina, when we literally were sitting there one day and we're like, podcast would be so much fun. And we're like, let's do it. And it's been a really fun way to, one, for us to stay connected as friends.
Yeah.
We know that we have this scheduled time where we can talk about what's going on in our lives. And continue advocating for military families. I also love, because I'm a military spouse, I still am personally looking for resources that will help my family.
Right.
And so being able to interview all of these different guests and learn about these different programs, learn something new every single month about it, it's kind of like mind-boggling of how much is out there and
Yeah.
how much a lot of us don't know. So I think it's just kind of been a really, really fun way to get this information out, but also learn ourselves.
Yeah.
And
So we
sometimes
like
it's kind of fun because sometimes we'll basically get to go through like a therapy session together, depending on the guest. We've had therapists, we've had all these things, and sometimes you don't realize you need it. I feel like we've
Right.
had like women on who were in the like mental health fields, and they talked to us about things, and you're talking about it, and we cried. Wow, that was like a therapy session that I
Yeah.
didn't know I needed, and there were things that we talked about that I don't ever talk about. Feels so much better.
Yep.
So it's also kind of just been really cool experiencing all these different parts of the military community together. And I think that that's our friendship is super strong because of that. We talk about things that I wouldn't talk about with my normal friends. Like it wouldn't come
Yeah.
up over coffee, and it's so fun to do.
And like I said, it's just really fun to learn about other people's stories because I have my stories, Sabrina has her stories. We can only talk about them so much. So we really like to hear other people's things. And I think it's a great way for us to show that even though military spouses have very similar journeys, like we go through long time away from our significant others. We go through the PCSing, but at the same time, they can be very different. And so you can learn maybe like, okay, if this happens to me, I know I can do X, Y, and Z, or
Right.
whatever the case may be. And I think that's a great way for us to kind of get those stories out because there are so many and so many baby spouses that are out there that are just trying to keep their head above water. I mean, there's seasoned spouses who are still trying to keep their head above water.
Exactly.
We're
Exactly.
all in the same boat. We're all in the same boat, friends.
We haven't all mastered it, but we are here to support.
It's just something. Well, and I think that is a really big part of me growing up
Yeah.
military. Growing up military, I learned a lot of these aspects about myself, being resilient, adaptable, leadership qualities, and things like that. Like I was kind of thrown into the trenches, so to speak. Even anyone who's ever been a military kid, we're built differently. I always say that we are a whole nother breed of
Mhm.
people. We see things in a different aspect than a lot of our counterparts are. And I think this is because we've gone through what us spouses are going through, but at that like youth
Younger
level.
age.
I moved almost every single year. I moved every year in my high school. So I had a lot of moving around and I hated it.
Mhm.
Now looking back as an adult and seeing what I got to do and experience, I gained so much more than what I felt at that time that I was
That you
losing.
love.
Yeah. So having those conversations with your kids or even yourself saying like, "Oh, okay, I'm losing this, but what am I gaining? I'm gaining an adventure. I'm gaining the potential of making a new friend that's going to be like family, gaining, um, you know, experiences in different places, or I get to go travel or anything like that. Like, look at that positive aspect of it because if you stay in a negative mindset, you're going to stay in that mindset and you're not going to enjoy it and it's not going to help your mental health. If you look outside of it and look towards that silver lining that we always kind of say, it's not going to be sunshine all the time. There are
Right.
going to be times when you are struggling and you're going to just want to be fed up and throw your hands up and say, I don't want to do this anymore. That's
Right.
okay. Military Spouse Advocacy Network. They have a great leadership program. And I was fortunate enough to get accepted and do that program last year. And so one of the things that they talk about in that program is how to get out of the basement. And this is a great way to talk about, you're going to go into the basement. No matter what. If there's some
Right.
type of crises, you will go into the basement. What's important to figure out is how long are you going to stay in that basement till you climb out of the basement and be able to handle things. So learning what gets you out of the basement or
Mhm.
however you want to whatever you want to call it will help you kind of get past that mental hurdle
Yeah.
and be able to handle things in a way that's not going to affect your mental stability. And if you have a negative mindset, you won't be able to get out of those things.
Yes. And I'm glad you talked about the negativity because that can take over in so many different aspects of your life. If you're constantly being negative and not looking at that light and the positivity and all the things that, like you said, new experiences that you're learning. So now my question for both of you is how can we build stronger support systems, especially emotional ones, for military spouses who are isolated during deployments or during their PCS moves?
It's really all about, like, putting yourself out there and finding your community. Like, it's hard, and our family has moved, like, 4 times in the last 4 years, and so we've literally done it every year, and, like, to have to redo it every year, it is
Yeah.
mentally exhausting. And, like, we got to this place in middle of the year here this year, and I was like, why? I'm fine. Like, I have my friends online, and my kids also have their friends online. So, like, why are we putting in the effort? Like, we know we'll be here for 2 years, but will we? That's kind of
Right.
the story of our life. Like, has been will. And as an introvert, like, I definitely am more comfortable at home,
Oh,
and
see,
I don't
Are
feel like
you?
I
Yeah.
need a ton
You're
of
more
people.
relaxed.
Yeah. And so luckily though, we have met a couple people who are like, let's have tea at your house. Like
Yeah.
I think they picked up on the vibes of like, I don't really want to go do extra stuff.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to add things to my schedule. And so we've had one girl over for tea and
Okay.
her kids play with my kids. And then we've had another whole family with teenagers and all the works over
Yeah.
for dinner. And we had a game night already. And we've only been here for 2 months. And so like it's picked up a lot quicker and it's nice. But I think that they also just have read the room and like
Yeah.
she comes to these events, but I also just like I just hang out. Like I'm not big at like chatting with everybody, and they can read the room and be like, okay, this girl likes one-on-one interaction, and then that's better for me. And
Yeah.
it is. And so then we've had these great experiences already where I'm like, okay, great. We built a community around ourselves already that gets it. And I would so much rather I don't mind hosting. Like that part's
Right.
totally fine.
I am too.
But
Like I
I
can
just
host a
don't want to have
party.
to be around massive groups of people. And I've learned that over the years that like when I go to Bunko and stuff like that, I have a good time and I do
Yeah.
come home feeling really good about like having had all these conversations, but I'm so tired and I'm
Yeah.
so worn out that I'm like, I need my community needs to be small circle and it needs to be more personal. Like I need that one-on-one, that close, deep interaction with people because I just feel like shallow conversations don't fill me up.
no, that's a really
Yeah.
important thing that you stated is I think that whether you're introverted or extroverted, that you need to have that close group
Yeah.
of someone, even if it's just one person that you can feel extremely comfortable with and having deeper conversations. And I think like we've learned that as we've gotten older that we can set boundaries in friendships. Like we don't have to be friends with every single person
Right.
that we meet. They're great to meet up at the park and stuff like that. But like in terms of someone who is going to be my support system, it may not fit, and it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, you can
Don't
break
feel
up with
guilty.
those
Yeah.
Sabrina says it all the time. Like you can break up with friends, and I think it's so hard because it's like dating.
Yeah.
Terrifies me. I don't know why it scares me so much nowadays.
But it's okay. My husband and I last night we had a conversation and I told him that I was like, as I've gotten older, I've been very selective in who I build my relationships, my networks, my community with, and who I want in my space.
I definitely have the feeling of like I want my friends to reflect myself as well. Like so when we were in Fayetteville, I had this whole group of like friends and though I was in the in crowd, like right, like I
Yeah.
had been picked in was chosen one
Yeah, yeah.
to be part of their group. And we had good times, but ultimately I was finding out that they would represent our group as a
Right.
whole in conversations. And I didn't want to be in that room. Like I didn't want to be like expressed that way. The way that they were talking about us and the way that they treated people was not for
That's
me.
not
And
you.
so I
Yeah.
eventually was just like, I'm out. Like we're not friends anymore. And I
Yeah.
totally divorced the whole group. I was like, we're done. I
We're
can't.
done. They represent you. Like growing up, think about it even when you were a child. Like at least my mom always said, birds of a feather flock together. And so for me, it's always been that way. And it's like military life, although we want a community, you can still be selective.
There's a difference between like making friends and not. I still think you could be cordial and like still talk with those people and not be snobbish because I do feel like that is something that a lot of military spouses feel like they experience is that they can't be friends with that person. So then like they're sitting there awkwardly at like a play group or something like that. Like no, still they're there for a reason. If you're going to a military play group or an organization event, they're there because you're all there for the same reason. You're all there
To get to know each other.
trying to find some type of connection.
Yeah.
And so they're going to just feel more isolated if they're feeling like they're being kind of like shunned out. So if you're going to events, you should have that mindset of, but for that small community of your community,
Yeah.
it's okay to set those boundaries. And I feel like a lot of spouses feel that all military spouses are just these horrible people.
snobby women.
But listen, there are some of them out there.
Yeah.
There are. And there's those keyboard warriors and there's those people who just have nothing better to do with their life than to tear people down. And I think that's just a society that we live in. I don't think it's necessarily just a military society.
Correct.
And
Exactly.
you're listening and you see that and you're just like, I want nothing to do with other military spouses. Not all military spouses are bad.
I like
There
that.
are some out there that are truly wanting to support and help and be there for you.
Yeah.
If you come across a bad apple, toss it aside and keep picking because they're going to be there for you.
Yes, and I wanna say this to the people that are watching as well. I know when through the years I was told that officer spouses don't communicate with enlisted spouses, and that's something that's that's not supposed to take place, at least in the Navy world. And to me, I didn't like that, and I was like, oh, well, I'm gonna be friends with whoever I feel is fitting to be friends with, regardless of their spouse's rank. And so I just want to put it out there for military spouses that do feel like, oh, well, because she's an enlisted spouse, I can't communicate with her. Get out of that mindset,
Yeah.
okay? Because you're still a military spouse
Listen,
community at the end of the
you're
day.
still a military spouse. Yes, like
Exactly.
you may have to watch what you say
Right. In
depending
certain
on your
settings.
spouses in certain
Right.
settings. But there are, and again, you're going to have spouses who wear the ring. And again, those are just
They
spouses. They're
exist.
just another person. Life is too short to get hung up on someone who is thinking they're better than you. We don't have
Yes.
time for that. Like, if they feel like they're too good for you, boo, you're too good for them.
Move
Like,
on to the
move
next.
on and
Yeah.
find someone who is going to support you and lift you up to be the best person that you can be and not tear you down because they think they're better than you.
Yes. Thank you so much. Because that's something that, like, anytime I go somewhere, it's like I'm knocking it down. I don't care what your spouse does, the rank or anything. I'm getting to know who you are. Where can I support you if I can support you? Or what resources are you looking for? Is there a painting event we want to go to? Just something.
Like, I think it's a way for us to like connect in another way of military lifestyle, but it can come off as they're only curious on what your husband does to see if I feel like it's a comparison.
Yeah.
If you're using that as a comparison, oh, like your husband
Please
doesn't,
don't.
don't do it.
Don't do
Don't
that.
do it.
But they probably wouldn't even know what the, the jobs are. I
Exactly.
describe like Ashton as like, oh, it's
Right.
like advanced Google Earth. I guess that's what he does. I don't
For Earth, I love it.
I mean, the amount of spouses, I mean, I do feel like this is something that spouses should know. And I advocate for them to know this information because I think it is important in case of deployments. But you should know your spouse's rank, MOS, and the location of where they are stationed at, like what unit they are in.
Look,
Just having those three things, if that's the only three things that you learn about military life, that's the only things you need to really know.
so my final question for both of you: what does mental health on the home front mean to you now, and how has your understanding of it evolved over time?
it's just so much more important. And I love to see that's as a culture. Like that
Yes.
is something that has been, at least in the military community, advocated for. I don't like seeing how the world is today. I don't know that it's being advocated everywhere. That is clearly not the case. But I do see like younger soldiers that are getting mental health care and it's okay and it's accepted. And even just physical health care is accepted because your physical health affects your mental health. And we were also taught don't go to the doctor for anything because then you're on different things and these
Yeah.
issues. It's so much stronger, I feel like, but there's so much that needs to be done. So this morning, as we were recording, they talked about the Army regulations for females, and it's like, how does that help though? Like, okay,
Right.
great, now they don't have eyelashes. Like, what? And we need to be focusing on why are there still 22 suicides a day on average? Like,
Right.
why are there mental health cases like our co-host Laura where he tried to get help and no one would help him? Like,
Mm-hmm.
why do these situations still exist and continue to exist? And that's what the military really needs to focus on.
Thank
I think,
you.
I mean, it's not even just the military, it's like culture. The US culture really
Yeah.
needs to focus on it. I mean, we're living in a society right now where it's a lot of pointing fingers. It's your side's right, my side's wrong.
Labels, yeah.
Right.
There's a lot of things that shouldn't be happening. And so the stability of our society as a whole, in my opinion, isn't set up to properly support mental health. And I think that's going to come a long ways. One, it comes a long ways with everyone just listening and starting at home and taking those steps
Mhm.
to recognize what that can look like. So, irritability, body
Simulation.
shaking, things
Everything.
like,
Yeah.
looking at things or people pulling back and like kind of cunning, recluse and things like that. Like looking for those signs and then you taking those steps to say, hey, I've noticed you've been struggling, or hey, I
Mhm.
noticed that you've been really short in our conversations lately. What can I do to help you? There's so many of us. I'm one of the worst ones. I think it's been instilled in us, especially from our age group,
Yeah.
that asking for help is a sign of like weakness or a
Mhm.
sign of that you're failing. And so it's been instilled that, asking for help is something that we don't do. And we preach like ask for help. But as I've grown and I've gotten older and I've recognized like wait a minute, I am starting to spiral. I need help. I need to ask for help. That's especially something like within my marriage. Like I'm like, I is spiraling right now. I need you to stop what you're doing and I need you to help me in this aspect because
Yes.
if not, I'm going to continue to go down the drain. And I think as a community, we also have to look for those because even if someone has expressed they need help or they've hinted at it, we may not be actually as a society going, oh, wait, they asked for help. Like,
Yeah, right.
our society has been built on like, oh, they're just complaining to get out of PT or, oh, they're just complaining because they don't want to come into work today. Like that is how our society views things.
Mhm.
And so until we change that mindset of, oh no, this person's saying something's wrong, we need to dig a little deeper.
Yeah.
And that needs to come into play. I mean, I'm hoping the military takes extra steps. And I feel I've seen a lot of steps towards that way.
Mhm.
A lot of new regulations about you can't say certain things to like drill and different things like that, but it still happens. So, and they, and the excuses, oh, we're just trying to, build tough skin and resiliency. But at the end of the day,
Yeah, being on the other end of it, the veteran side of it is, yeah, maybe it's better inside of the active duty culture because those things get noticed more. There are eyes on people. There's
Mhm.
suicide watch. There's things like that. You drop out of the military, you get out, you're done.
you're done. There's nothing
Nobody
there.
You don't
watching
have
you.
it.
And I have veteran friends where I reach out to them and I'm like, whoa, that post you just made is extreme. Like, are we
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah,
Like,
right.
what is
Red
going
flag.
on? Yeah,
We
just
didn't
watch
post or
out
things
for
like
it.
that. Like they're
Mhm.
wanting someone to be like, hey, like you post, I'm giving you things like that. I understand that life can get busy and sometimes things get missed, but like if one person catches it out of the thousands of friends that we all have on Facebook
Right.
or Instagram or whatever the case, if just keeping out and kind of catching those triggers of
I
or
think
the
TikTok's a good one to watch for too, is because a
Mm.
lot of us will repost stuff. And so it may not physically be coming from me. I may not be verbalizing what is going on. But if
Yeah.
I'm reposting similar content over and
And it's like,
over,
let me
there's
check
a
in.
message that I'm trying to get out to people. It's a reach for help and hoping that
without
someone will
actually
just catch
saying
it.
I need help. And I think that's
Yeah.
one how our generation does. Like, oh yeah, this
I
is
have
what
a
I'm doing. I'm
friend.
going to share it.
I have a friend. I have a question for a friend here that's thinking about this, and it's
Yeah.
like, no, I'm glad that you've noticed that, Sabrina, like in reaching out to the friends and veterans, and you pointing out that hey, they don't have that immediate, someone
Don't have the
keeping that
support.
eye on them
It's so weird.
constantly.
Yeah, it's weird getting out because those things that you're so used to in the active duty realm of having
Yeah,
like
They just
your sergeant who knows what's going on in your
yeah,
life or any of these things, it just
it's
disappears
gone.
immediately.
well, you have to think
Wow.
like our service members have someone's eyes on them every single day. So if
Right.
they see someone struggling, or those are going to come to the front and are going to be handled. But again, like Sabrina said, like as soon as you're out, you're out. There's no support. A lot of your counterparts are moving on. I mean, they may still be there if you're still in the location, but I mean that's why you see such a high
Great.
veterans who are struggling. And it doesn't help that if you're in an area that, you don't have a great VA or you're having to travel hours to the VA because
Get there. Yeah.
our service members specifically go through so much. Even if they've never deployed before,
Mm-hmm.
they still have gone through so
So much.
much. Like we talk about how like this hurts my brain. I can't even like function right now
Yeah.
because like I just so much. They're going through such a high strenuous career, the amount of pressure put on them to make sure everything's perfect. So there is still a really, really high stress, no matter what job you're doing.
Yeah.
You have people above you yelling at you, you have people down below yelling at you. There's just a high stressful environment. And so keeping that in mind as a spouse as well. Like, don't just think that they're like, going to work and it's
Everything.
la la land and they
Yeah.
come
No.
home. And that's something like I've always tried to do. Like, I'll get really I used to get so mad at my husband because he'll come home, get on the couch, fall asleep or play on his phone. I'm like, can you do something with me? And then after communication, which
Yeah.
is like, what we preach, like learning, like he's like, I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I need
Yeah.
to take a nap. I know that that's not really fair to you, but this is something that I just have to do. And, can we plan something outside of that? So after having those conversations, we've made the changes to what works best for us. So I know like I'm no longer going to get mad at him if he comes home and goes to sleep, or if he is like, I don't want to go do that because,
Yeah.
he's been playing Papa Bear to an entire company all
Yeah.
day fixing their problems. He doesn't really want to come home and
He
have
doesn't feel
problems here.
exactly entertain people. You voice
Um,
it that you need to
but I
decompress.
never really thought about it until we had those conversations.
Yes.
And a lot of that, if you're feeling kind of down about something, having those conversations with your spouse or whoever you may be feeling like you're not getting 100% from, is going to help that stability, and help you kind of get out of it and help you feel heard. Because I feel like a lot of times we feel like we're not heard as
Right.
spouses. We're not number one. We're not usually number two, and we're usually like three or four. And then unfortunately, like that's kind of sucky to say, but um I can't imagine any military spouse family where a spouse comes first. Military first, at least.
They don't get a choice.
They
It
Yeah, I was gonna say
really
it's
has
the
to
mission.
They
For
can't put
sure.
you. They can prioritize you as much as possible, but at the end of the day, if Uncle Sam says he has to go, she has to go, they gotta go. So having those conversations is like, okay, hey, like I understand that I am not your number one, but also, guys, military life isn't forever.
Thank you so much. I am so glad that you spoke on really the multiple challenges, both from military spouse to active duty to veterans. It comes at you at every angle. And military spouses, if you don't know what your spouse does, gain some type of understanding and have that conversation with them so that when they do come home and they want to decompress, you understand, like Ashley spoke on, having that understanding. I think it's important for us to know that too as military spouse with our service members. That's it for today. Thank you so much, both of you, again for joining me today and being on the podcast talking about mental health, getting real. Is there any other type of tips, resources, or anything you want to share so I can be able to put it in the description?
Just make sure you ask for help. And there are so many resources. And the biggest one that's super easy to get at is going to be your military, like one space situation, because they have counseling, they have marriage counseling, they have financial counseling. Any part, I feel like all those little parts, your physical health, your mental health, your financial health, all those things play together. And if you aren't on the right place with any of them, you're going to see the problems, making sure you use those. Like, why not? All that stuff is there and it's free.
Yeah.
I mean, I literally was gonna say is utilize the resources that are available to you. If you do not know what is out there, reach out to us because I mean we can help you find that. But I mean, like they all play a role, like Sabrina just said. Mental health, financial, all of that comes into play. If one is out of whack, you're likely experiencing some form of stress and anxiety. And so your mental stability will be off. So having that and then having a community, I think is really important, even if it's just one person you can count on to just come over and sit on the couch and veg with you if that's what you just need, or if you need someone to, come over and help you fold laundry because you have a mountain of laundry and it can feel really lonely, but you're not alone and there's someone out there that can assist you. So join a supportive group. We have our Hearts Connect group, which is an online community. So if you're not at one of our installations that have coordinators, we do have that podcast, which is full of knowledge. So you can go listen to that. But just be in the know. I feel like if you know what's out there and help you, you can have this touch in your back pocket and feel like you kind of know where to go for this. And that can feel like a little self-reassuring that you have that extra support when you need it.
Yes. And if you need the 3 people in your back pocket, Sabrina, Ashley, and myself will find you those resources, those connections, or be part of your community and network. So do not hesitate to reach out. I'm going to put down their information along with mine so that you can find your group, find your community as well. Thank you guys.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you again for tuning in this week. I look forward to bringing you resources, support, and laughter. Sending my love from the desk of a Navy wife.